Never watched one of these before, so we'll see how this goes.
Adjective. Occurring every day. Commonplace. Ordinary. Calling this channel Quotidian Writer works twofold. First, I'm a writer who strives to write in some form every day, like clockwork.
Damn, that's loud.
Second, I don't claim to be some magical writing guru who knows all. I'm an ordinary writer stumbling through the learning process and trying to make my voice heard in the great void. I first learned the word quotidian from Spanish, cotidiano, and fell in love with the sound of it. I didn't even know there was an English equivalent.
The music was way too loud
later.
there. I could barely hear.
That's the beauty of language.
That's for people
Along
who
our
went for a
literary
master's
travels,
degree
we
level
often
vocab.
encounter new words to treasure as part of our collections, like seashells at the beach. Expanding your writing vocabulary isn't about cramming your sentences with $10 words that make you sound like a stuffy professor. It's not about flooding your work with jargon that only experts in a certain field can understand. And not every sentence needs to be bursting with purple prose that brags about its beauty. It's more about finding the right word, the one special word in a sentence that will transmit an image or feeling directly into the reader's mind. For example, the word carapace is a specialized term to me. It refers to the hard upper shell of a turtle
smut level vocab.
And Daniel Wallace uses it in his novel Big Fish. He's lived his whole life like a turtle, within an emotional carapace that makes for the perfect defense. There's absolutely no way in. For those unfamiliar with the word carapace, the turtle simile provides context clues.
Yo, Muffin, how's it going?
An emotional carapace. The specificity gives the description.
This is all new, so I don't know if this movie's
even,
if this show's even good.
Or that sconces were a thing, or what the heck a bandolier was. Knowing the names of flowers, light fixtures, and weaponry allows authors to deliver both precision and flair. So, let's look at a few strategies we writers can use to expand our word knowledge. Reading is an obvious vocabulary builder, but what do you do when you encounter an unfamiliar word? I might rely on context clues to figure out the probable meaning. With an ebook, I'll use the built-in dictionary. If I'm reading a physical book and don't want to bother Google, I'll likely write the word down on a post-it note.
I'm learning new words that I will never use.
Entirely if it's not important for understanding.
See, I don't think this is about like it's what's it? Ways to build your vocabulary, not necessarily the words themselves. Like that's what like I said, it's like I'm looking for techniques overall, not simply things, right?
For me, the issue with this approach was that most of these words were never encoded in my long-term memory. I knew it was unrealistic to memorize every new word I encountered, so I decided to try a different tactic.
Thank you for redeeming
I'd look up the definitions as I went along, but I'd only write down the words I could see myself using in my own writing.
Immersive experience.
Then I'd pick the 3 most interesting ones from my list, open the document with my vocabulary journal, and take the time to really get to know those 3 words. My vocab journal includes the original context, dictionary definition, etymology, usage in the news, and a practice sentence. Here's part of my entry for the noun vellum. I came across it in a short story by Paolo Bacigalupi entitled Mariab's Children. The ink went to lovers' notes, a surf's sweet bilberry to the protestations of devotion that suitors spilled on vellum. Vellum is defined as fine parchment made originally from the skin of a calf. It originated around the 15th century and is related to the word veal, or baby cow. The 2016 headline read, "Why is the UK still printing its laws on vellum?" The answer is that vellum lasts a long time, and it's reported that original copies of the Magna Carta, signed more than 800 years ago on vellum, still exist. This was my practice sentence. The founders agreed that the laws must be written on vellum, so even civilizations 1,000 years hence would know the decrees of their predecessors. At the end of the year, I reread all my practice sentences to further cement these new words in my memory. Now I feel more comfortable using those words in my fiction. Flashcards are another tried and true method of learning. Quizlet is a great free resource for flashcards that can be used across their website and mobile app. You can make your own or find sets other people have created. I recommend searching for SAT or GRE vocabulary if you plan on doing the latter. Quizlet has a matching and testing feature so you can practice your knowledge. Magoosh provides a set of curated GRE vocab flashcards, and their vocabulary builders
if you ever get a
camp,
that ain't something I'm doing.
I'm also fond of Brainscape's GRE Vocab Genius app because you can rank how well you know a word on a 1 to 5 scale. Based on your rating, the app will make the word appear more or less frequently until your confidence increases. You can always go old-fashioned and write paper flashcards, which I still like to use when I want to scribble down mnemonic clues. For example, I learned the word extemporaneous, meaning something that's improvised or made up on the spot, by associating it with a word of similar meaning, spontaneous. It's also useful to learn English word elements, such as Latin roots, which can help you dissect individual words to understand their meaning. Take the word
if I did
antebellum.
Do it, everyone would think
Ante
I'm bouncing
before,
someone.
And bellum denotes war. So
I got infinite dollars for
war,
washing people's cars because I just pressed the washing button.
Before the American Civil War. You can then use this knowledge to better understand words that share those elements, such as antecedent and belligerent. In the same vein as flashcards are word-a-day notifications. Many online dictionaries have an email sign-up where they'll share daily definitions. The Word of the Day app tells me a new word every morning. It displays a very basic definition and example sentence so that I don't get lost in etymology or start opening new tabs left and right.
Should learn this shit, but I'm
perhaps
tired,
the
so I'm
fastest way to
grumpy.
expand your vocabulary.
True book.
Sometimes
I'm not even
it's
writing
enough
notes
to
for
memorize
this.
the dictionary. We need to delve into specialized terminology because the story demands that the character know how to ride a horse, or that the reader can paint the landscape based on words alone. Every hobby or field of study comes with its own set of vocabulary. Learning that native language and applying it to your stories can better convince the audience of your world's reality.
Yep.
You'll likely encounter
That's where
the terms
research
you need
comes
to know
in.
while you're conducting targeted research.
Paint all
Pay
your
special attention to the
collarbone,
words
no.
your sources use in discussing the
You do not
topic.
need to learn this.
Be
It's
sure you know
completely over
exactly
the
what the
top.
terms mean and in what context to use them. For instance, I often see fiction writers use the terms clip and magazine interchangeably when talking about guns, whereas most people with firearm experience say there's a distinct difference. The clip loads the magazine and the magazine loads the gun. It might help to make a list of the specialized topics that will crop up in your book.
I don't know what to do on
Gothic
board, and I don't know
architecture,
what to
rare
do if I
gemstones,
started
human
stream.
anatomy, classical music.
I'd do if I started
In
stream.
their techno-thriller
Play
relics,
chess!
Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child clearly did their research to make the lab work sound believable, although I can't
Apex
attest to
Legends.
the scientific accuracy myself. The descriptions are filled with terminology that's still understandable. We picked up the first plant with tweezers, slicing off the top portion of the leaf with an X-Acto knife. In a mortar and pestle, she ground it up with a mild enzyme that would dissolve the cellulose and lyse the cell's nuclei, releasing the DNA. The important takeaway here is the visual and the purpose. We can visualize the character grinding up the leaf for the purpose of releasing the DNA, but the added jargon demonstrates the character's expertise. Reading articles and books on these subjects,
Chess, I
talking
just
to an
played
expert,
chess.
or even taking online or in-person classes
No one else
can acquaint you with the necessary
concerned. We have a
jargon.
potential
When
cannibal
you
in
understand a
chat.
field's basic vocabulary,
Me?
it's easier to
Look!
determine what search terms you need to use to
How
learn
did
more.
how'd you guys
After
find
all,
out?
you don't know what you don't
Fuck!
know. Even when we build our vocabularies, we don't always use all the words in our arsenal, leaning more heavily on some and entirely forgetting others. As Roy Peter Clark, author of Writing Tools,
Zoink's
says,
trying to eat
all of us
himself.
possess a reading vocabulary
Self-cannibalism.
as big as a lake, but draw
Love
on a
it.
writing vocabulary as small as a pond. This is why I keep a word bank, a list of verbs, adjectives, and nouns I already know the meaning of, but that I don't use often. Right now, my verb bank includes squelched, weltered, scrabbled, and careened. For adjectives, I have gossamer, vermilion, lurid, and blubbery. I'm less likely to write down nouns, but my short list features promontory, regalia, cultivar, and ruffian. In addition to a word bank, I also keep a word hit list. This not only covers annoying filler words like just, that, and very I can often delete, but also personal habits that need to be replaced. Unusual words or phrases I've caught myself using more than once in
Be
the same
thankful I'm
story.
erasing my tech
When a word is ingrained in our
footprint
vocabulary,
and moving
it
to an
basically becomes invisible.
unknown location.
Even though it sounds normal to the writer, it sticks out to the reader. To me, words like cacophony, maladroitly, and susurrate call attention to themselves, so if an author uses them twice within the span of a few chapters, I'm going to notice.
A job interview
It's
was
easier
for the
to see
CIA,
this work when
apparently.
we're reading another person's writing than our own, which is yet
Yeah,
another
did you
reason
wind
why
up getting
feedback
that job
from
book?
partners and editors is so valuable. All writers fall into the habit of using certain words. In the book Nabokov's favorite word is mauve, author Ben Blatt analyzed what words famous authors use most frequently, which he refers to as cinnamon words. Named after Ray Bradbury's
Move to
tendency use
Afghanistan,
the
then you'll
cinnamon
be
is
erased by
proportionally more than other
terrorists.
writers.
Jesus,
For Agatha
Muffin.
Christie, that list
It
featured
was
Inquest,
ghostwriting,
Alibi,
and I don't want to
Frightful.
do that.
Toni Morrison's cinnamon words are mest, navel, and slop. Many famous authors are guilty of relying on the same cliches across their works, with Salman Rushdie using The Last Straw and Dan Brown Full Circle in over half their books. It's not a bad thing to have cinnamon words, but make sure you're not recycling cliches.
My goal is to stay
and you could
alive,
be
otherwise I
finding
would
fresh
just let the
phrasing.
cannibal eat me.
Part of a writer's vocabulary growth is determining when they're misusing words and discovering alternative definitions of familiar words. It's good to get in the habit of double-checking word meanings when you're not 100% sure. My word choice errors often come from me assuming I know the meaning of a word because of how it sounds. For example, I always thought nonplussed meant unbothered or unimpressed. In the United States, it does hold that meaning colloquially, so I was confused when I encountered sentences where it held almost the opposite meaning. The original definition implies that someone is so surprised or confused as to be at a loss at what to
80%
say,
fat, so I'll
think,
end
or
up
do.
killing them in return.
Merriam-Webster
Justice will be
includes
done.
This example from Harry Potter. Cedric looked nonplussed. He looked from Bagman to Harry and back again, as though sure he must have misheard what Bagman had said. Many times, I'll catch myself saying or writing a word that feels right, but that I'm not sure I could define. That's when I know I need to look it up, just to be sure. Be wary and check the dictionary. In general, your diction should match the character's voice or the story's narrative tone. If you're writing a story with strong character voice, especially first person, you can pay special attention to their vocabulary. If the character has an interest in nature,
we're
the
gambling,
vocabulary list
guys!
might include words like metamorphosis, parasite, glacial, molting,
Fuck!
stemmed, blossomed, and germinated. They might use figurative language that conceptualizes the world in a way that's familiar to them. She was like a morning glory, only opening up when times were bright. Create a list of words or phrases that particular character would use. When it comes to narrative tone, you can pay attention to how your word choice changes the story's atmosphere. Take a look at this straightforward sentence. The creature moved across the floor. The word moved is a little plain. It doesn't add much to the visual. You can change the verb to convey more detail about how the creature moved. You might say, the creature scuttled across the floor. To me, that's creepy. This is a horror story now. You can almost hear the tapping.
All I want
of
is to get
numerous
rich enough
legs
to
as
mock
it
everyone in
runs.
chat for being poorer
But
than
say
me.
this is a cute creature, and you want to
I
show
mean,
that
I
it's
work at
weird.
Walmart, Beezus, so I don't think that's very hard.
Aw, it's stumbling around, all awkward and clumsy. Now it's more of a comedy. You can replace plain words with ones that
one
give the reader
finger
more
salute.
information.
Just salute
Again,
in
building
the
your
list,
vocabulary
though,
is
the
not about
most.
seeing how many words you can pack into a single sentence. Like Mark Twain once said, don't use a $5
Just salute
word
in the
when a
list,
50-cent
though.
word
Text
will
to
do.
talks will now give
Moderation
you the
is
most
key.
genuine sign
In
of
fact,
affection. You
using
know, it's
only
double
one or two
flipping
standout words in a
of the
sentence will
bird
generate
follows
more
with a
power.
fuck you.
Let's
Oh,
compare
that's
two
good, Sean.
examples. The first. A blubbery woman wearing gossamer regalia and lurid vermilion squelched toward the ruffian scrabbling for cultivars, who then weltered and careened off the promontory. The second. A woman in a lurid red dress sped toward the boy. He stumbled away from his plants and careened off the cliff's edge. It's hard to visualize or even parse the meaning of that first sentence. In the second, the only unusual words are lurid and careened, where the rest are quite simple, conveying the image more directly. Avoid piling on adjectives and verbs when you can convey the same idea with one well-chosen adjective and one well-chosen verb.
Getting good
Like to
rolls? Yeah,
address
I had
short quotes about vocabulary from
150%.
famous authors. Much like Mark Twain, George Orwell believed writers should never use a long word where a short one will do. But throughout the pages of 1984, you'll find words like etiolated and palimpsest. Stephen King shares a similar message in his ever-popular book On Writing. One of the really bad things you can do to your writing is to dress up the vocabulary, looking for long words because you're maybe a little bit ashamed of your short ones. This is like dressing up a household pet in evening clothes. The pet is embarrassed, and the person who committed this act of premeditated cuteness should be even more embarrassed. Yet King himself doesn't seem to shy away from sesquipedalian or eccentric verbiage. In Misery, he poetically compares Annie Wilkes' expression to that of a
No idea
patient
what a
in mental
tonberry
asylum.
is.
The word which
You
defined
don't
it
know what a tonberry is from Final Fantasy? There you go. Tonberry. And then the more of them you kill, the more damage they do with everyone's grudge. So they're a very dangerous opponent to continuously kill. In some cases, they're like kind of a frog person. In some cases, they're like in Final Fantasy 14, they're cursed Lullafels. And some sort of disease that overtook them. Still haven't dealt with my affiliate. Well, if you don't have any... Muffin, if you don't have any way to set up a bank account then I don't know what it will do, right? Because I don't think you can do it without doing that.
It was catatonia, but what frightened him had no such precise word. It was, rather, a vague comparison. In that moment, he thought that her thoughts had become much as he imagined her physical self. Solid, fibrous, unchanneled, with no places of hiatus.
Why can't they set
Orwell
up a
and
bank
King have
account? He's
expansive
15, his parents don't want him to have a
vocabularies, and it
bank
shows in their
account.
work. With their advice, I think what both authors are saying is that readers can tell when a writer is trying too hard to
Leave it
sound
in a few
smart.
weeks, I had to focus on
If you go
TM.
against your
Yeah, don't worry
natural
about it, Muffin.
tendencies,
It's not a
the
big
flow
deal.
of your writing will suffer. Play to your strengths and build your vocabulary in a way that's going to enhance your unique style.
Can't they set up when they
Writer
control? Their
Alex
parents don't
Setchman
want them
Cora
to, and he doesn't
phrases
want to
it
go against his
beautifully.
parents.
Rare, impressive, or sophisticated words have to defend themselves. They have their place, capturing the perfect shade of meaning, or hitting just the right emotional note, or lacking any simpler synonyms. But you should never use them to show off or prove how smart you are.
True.
If you constantly send your reader to the dictionary, it detracts from your writing and discourages them from reading more.
True.
If you'd like to further flex your
Figured
word
it could
muscles,
go
you can
to
try
a
creating a
college
vocab story
fundish.
as a writing exercise.
That's what
I'll
I
give you
said.
3 words, and you can see how to fit them into a one-paragraph
I had a savings
story.
account since I was
Those
5. By the
words
time
are
I had
quandary,
access to over $1,000
putrid,
in it.
and royal.
Yep.
Having a wide vocabulary gives you more than just the smugness
Says
that
I'm
comes
going
from
to
knowing that
college.
aglet is the name for the tiny piece of plastic at the end of a shoelace. Language can feel
Aglet.
limited in its ability to express thoughts. But the more words you have at your disposal, the more opportunities you have to distill ideas into a digestible form.
Got food poisoning from SeaWorld and my parents
Hello,
refused
Logophiles,
to
what's a
sue
new word
them.
you've learned recently? Tell me where
Damn,
you found it and what it
Beerus.
means in the comments.
Beezus.
Whatever you do, keep writing.
True. I don't know how helpful that was. You know, we're still trying to find new channels. Maybe I'll go through a bunch of new channels and new videos